I really miss the days of two-player NES co-op. In a time before the internet and mobs of 12-year-olds screaming racial slurs at you online, you would just grab two controllers, one friend, and maybe a couch, although most of us sat on the floor, and enjoy some of the best cooperative experiences of all time. Today we're going to talk about 10 of my favorite co-op games on the NES. The list is not rated in any particular order, just 10 fantastic games to enjoy with a friend. This list is by no means comprehensive, so be sure to let me know down in the comments which are your favorites and which was some that I might have missed. And let's just start with one of the most obvious and best picks. I still feel to this day that the original Contra is a perfect game. The single player mode is fantastic, but it is even better with a friend. It is also really accessible for new players despite its difficulty, thanks to the 30 life code. I love this, as it allows anyone to enjoy this classic. I recently played through it with a friend who is not a gamer, and it was crazy watching them die so much, but I'm really good, so it's really like a 60 life code for them. And I love that they let you take lives for your partner when you run out. It's just such a good feature, as it makes sure both players are always in the game, and so even if you're playing with a much more skilled player, you're always in the action and always having a good time. The level design is just perfection, and when playing co-op, it's important to collaborate properly with your partner, as you don't want to get stuck at the far edges of the screen where you're vulnerable to enemies coming in to instantly kill you, or even worse, stuck on the bottom of the screen on the mountain level where your partner can kill you by going too fast. Of course, it was always fun to have little competitions when playing these kind of games as a kid and see the manic race on the mountain stage as we tried to kill each other, which would usually just result into us walking to bullets and other hazards. No matter how you choose to play it, Contra is just a fantastic cooperative experience. A lot of the great things I just said about Contra also apply to another Konami classic, Life Force. I love a good shmup, but I feel like there are so many problems with the genre thanks to the generally high skill ceiling in so many of these games. Some of them have ridiculous checkpoints that set you back way too far, and the common trope of the genre is that you get powered up, you die, you lose all your power-ups, and the game basically becomes impossible. Life Force just feels much more accessible than most games in the genre, probably thanks to the 30 life code that is present here as well. This makes it a perfect candidate to play with anybody, as you have a nice margin of error and instant respawn, so you don't really have to be skilled to go through it, meaning anyone can pick up a controller and just enjoy the shooting. The level design and set pieces in this game are fantastic. I always loved the fire stage. I think it was just such a cool effect watching these fires just shoot out from the side, and the game mixes in vertical and horizontal levels to keep things fresh, along with cool enemies and an awesome power-up system, much like the one seen in Gradius. I'm not really sure what came first, but I think Gradius did. I just think Life Force is the perfect shmup. I've played a lot of these kind of games in my life, and to this day, none of them have topped Life Force, and it is even better if you have a friend to play with. Cabal was my first experience with the gallery shooter, a genre that is virtually non-existent in this gaming space, and never really was, but that's a topic for another video. This game is simply fantastic. You play as one of two military dudes. You move around and you have to move your cursor to shoot everything, and I mean everything. I don't know if this is the first game with destructible environments, but I can't think of another NES game where you could just blow up everything. Walls, trees, houses, rocks, it doesn't matter. You also get a nice cover system where you can duck behind walls and barriers, but only for so long because the enemies can blow them up also. Of course, you also get power-ups from shooting everything, so it's not only just fun to decimate each environment, but it's also worth your while. This game also was one of my first experiences with the invincible dodge roll, which later becomes a staple in gaming. And this dodge roll is amazing. It's fast and travels a long distance, and you're completely invincible throughout its entire animation. Definitely learn how to use this, as there are bullets everywhere to dodge, but your character moves fast and shoots fast, so you're up to the challenge. The enemy variety is what you'd expect, but done really well. Lots of soldiers to shoot, and you fight helicopters, tanks, boats, turrets. I mean, everything you can think of is in this game. I don't feel Cabal gets the love it deserves. This is a truly fantastic action shooter. It's one of a kind, and you grab a friend to just blow up everything alongside you. Definitely a classic game, and easily one of my favorite co-ops on the system. Let's do one more shooter, only this time an overhead on foot one. Guerrilla War is a really cool game that has you playing as Che Guevara and Fidel Castro in the Cuban liberation. At least the Japanese version did. The American version has you just playing two unnamed heroes on an unnamed island shooting things against an unnamed evil organization. Regardless of all that, I think this is one of the most solid shooters on the system. The control is really smooth and the shooting is really fun. It's a very faithful port of the arcade game and really goes to show just how bad SNK dropped the ball with their port of Akari Warriors, which is just awful. It gets criticized a little bit because it is really easy. You have instant respawns and unlimited continues. This is one of those games you're going to beat the first time you play it, no questions asked, as you respawn right where you die. But this also makes it perfect as a co-op game. It doesn't matter if there's a skill imbalance between the two players, just grab two controls and have a literal blast shooting everything without ever worrying about dying or having to restart the game. It's not the deepest or most legendary game on the list, but it is a good time and a great time to play with a friend. Now what's a co-op list like this without some beat 'em ups? And what better game to start with than the legendary Double Dragon 2? Now if you watch this channel regularly, you may be surprised that I picked Double Dragon 2 instead of 3, but the reality is, as much as I love the third entry, the probability of you getting two players good enough to beat the first level together is pretty small, so I gotta give the nod to Double Dragon 2 for this list. This game was such a big deal when it came out. As much as I love the original, it really was a disappointment not being able to play two-player co-op, and this game remedied that. I can gush about this game forever. The controls are innovative, and I'm not sure why more games didn't use this two-directional layout. Outside of Renegade, I can't think of a single game that did, but it works really well. At the same time, they added so many cool moves like the power knee, spin kick, and the power uppercut. The level design here is fantastic, with great enemies and cool set pieces. It is not an easy game though, and probably one of the least approachable for new players on this list so far. Most people should have no problem getting through the early stages, but towards the end, this game gets really tough and the platforming is nuts. The good news is, the platforming is not really any more difficult with two players. Most of the time it's single screen, allowing one player to go and just enter the door at the end while the other player works their way through the challenges. Despite the difficulty, this is still a great game, one of the best beat 'em ups on the system, and a must for a list like this. I would love to put a ton more beat 'em ups on this list, but I only have room for one more, and even though there are a ton of great choices, I just think River City Ransom beats them all. This game is like no other, at least at the time of its release it was. I remember renting this game as a kid and was just blown away. The combo was really fun, with a nice amount of weight behind your hits, and cool weapons at every turn. It was always so satisfying hearing the plinking of the chains after beating up an enemy. But as cool as it all was to start, it just got cooler and cooler as the game progressed. There was such an air of mystery as you wandered into each shop. They had cool stuff with names like Stone Hands, and then you'd buy it, wondering what it would do, and all of a sudden you got this rapid 3-punch combo. It was just so cool. The air of discovering this game was unlike any other beat 'em up. Buying items in the shop always yielded really fun surprises, and the map itself was great to explore. You even get a cameo from the Double Dragons near the end of the game. Not the last time these franchises would overlap. I don't know why more games in this genre never went in this direction. Don't get me wrong, I love my good scrolling linear beat 'em ups, but this is such a unique game, and it's just a really fun twist on the genre that hasn't been emulated as often as you'd think, although there are some notable exceptions like Scott Pilgrim, of course. It's also a perfect co-op game, wandering around town and schools, beating everyone up, hanging out at the mall, spending your money at the shop. It really made you feel like a teenage tough guy. Its more realistic settings made it a little more relatable than most games in the genre, and definitely remains one of my favorites. I am running out of spots on this list, and we'll definitely have to do a part 2 at some point, but I wanted to include one platform on this list, and I'll get some more next time. But if I only have room for one, I'm gonna choose my favorite, which is the original Rescue Rangers, although Shadow of the Ninja was a really close second. There is just something so magical about this game. As a kid, I used to love the Rescue Rangers. That and Darkwing Duck were my two favorite shows to watch after school, and this game, based on that show, just nailed everything. The graphics were spectacular, and really did a good job of demonstrating the sense of scale. Obviously, playing as two chipmunks, you're pretty tiny, and it's funny to see a regular apple being bigger than your main character, and how much your little arm struggled to carry it around. I think the final boss fight against Fat Cat really does a great job of showing just how tiny you are compared to the average house cat. The bosses are large and perfectly represent their cartoon counterparts. The gameplay is really fun as well, and something a little different. You have no means of attacking empty-handed, but you can pick up boxes that are scattered literally everywhere, and you use these to throw at enemies. You can also duck into them and just let the enemies walk into you for damage, and I always really enjoy doing that. And there are boxes everywhere, so you shouldn't ever be totally defenseless, but you have to play smart and always carry one around with you when you can. The gameplay here is really fast, with tight controls and great level design that you would expect from Capcom. It's not a difficult game, but it's probably my favorite co-op platform in the system and one that someone of any age could enjoy. Next up, we have Bobble. This is one of the most definitive co-op games out there, as in order to achieve the true ending, you must beat it with 2 players. Definitely not something I'm going to be able to do in my 40s, but I did it when I was younger and it was fantastic. The gameplay loop is as simple and addicting as it gets. You play as either Bub or Bob as you shoot bubbles at enemies. Once they're trapped in the bubbles, you jump on top of them, they pop, and they collect all sorts of different fruit and other items when they die. These kinds of single-screen games were really popular in the 80s, but I would argue Bobble is one of the best, if not the best. You just clear every enemy and you do it through 100 screens, but it's so charming and so addictive and so much fun, it just never gets old. Its adorable graphics make it great for players of all ages, although it definitely can get tough later on. It's accessible enough that anybody should be able to have a good time with it. Rampage has a special place in my heart. I often wonder if my brother and I are the only 2 people on planet Earth to play through this whole game. You play as one of 2 monsters for the NES version. The Wolfman was absent from the home port. That always disappointed me. He was my favorite. And then you go around wrecking literally every city in America. The game is just good, dumb, mindless fun. You bash everything, and it's really addicting to just break down buildings and watch the cities crumble. You can eat people or food for health while you fight tanks, helicopters, and so much more. I remember buying this game with my brother on a weekend visit to my grandfather's, and we must have stayed up all night playing it. It was hours long. I don't remember the ending. I think you just stand over a map of the United States. It's all red and says congratulations. It's something simple like that. But it was just such a good time rampaging through the cities, causing a trail of destruction everywhere. It was a very unique game for its time. I don't think this is a game you need to sit down and finish. A full playthrough will take you a couple hours. There's no passwords or saves, but you're also not really missing much if you don't beat it. It's the kind of game you just grab a friend and have some mindless fun smashing everything. Our last game on this list is both one of the most unique and the least well known. I think it's safe to say that the other 9 games were all pretty popular and shouldn't have surprised anyone with their inclusion on this list. But our last game, Little Ninja Brothers, is definitely a hidden gem and something that really gets no attention. It's a very unique co-op game, as it is an RPG, although the random battles have you playing as an overhead action beat-em-up. If you ever played Kung Fu Heroes, this game plays basically just like that, as it is in the same series. The overhead combat has you punching enemies and flipping onto their heads. You could punch bricks into them as well as break bricks to find different power-ups. The game has most of the RPG tropes you'd expect. You have an overworld, some towns, some dungeons, and of course, some grinding to get extra levels, as was always the case in NES era RPGs because of how tough they were. At the end of each dungeon, you'd find a boss, and here the battles would turn into a turn-based affair like in a traditional role-playing game like Dragon Quest. These were not easy, so don't be afraid to grind a little before you decide to face them. This is such a unique little game. I love Kung Fu Heroes as well, so the combat is super fun, and the addition of all the RPG elements really give it a lot more depth. It will definitely take a few hours to beat, and playing through this with a friend probably won't be done in one sitting, but hey, it's just a great reason to get together and play some more video games. So this list was by no means comprehensive, just some of my favorites. Let me know in the comments which I missed and which I should include in future episodes.